Welcome to Crying Inside, where family stories are told with the most genuine emotions. Here, we share stories that not only bring tears to your eyes, but also leave you with lessons about love, forgiveness, and the strength to keep moving forward in life. Ask yourself, what would you do if one day your own sister took your place on a $400 million yacht? Would you stay silent, walk away, or still hold on to the belief that family can heal every wound? This isn't just a story about money. It's a journey of trust, pain, and moments of awakening. In today's story, you'll hear about two sisters who were once very close but were torn apart by greed and glamour. One enjoying the dazzling spotlight, while the other suffered in silence. Yet, when illness suddenly struck, fate forced them both to confront the truth. That family, no matter how broken, can still be the only place to come home to. Before we begin, I invite you to become part of the Crying Inside community. If you love touching, meaningful stories, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Your support helps us continue bringing you more heartfelt stories. Now, let's get started. That morning, the Miami harbor shone brightly under golden sunlight pouring over the deep blue sea. The giant $400 million yacht was anchored, sparkling like a floating palace on the water. This was the luxurious trip I had never dared to dream of, and according to the original plan, I was the one invited to join this journey. But everything changed in an instant. My sister, the one I trusted most, suddenly appeared wearing an expensive evening gown, shiny high heels, and a proud smile. To my shock, she walked straight to the reception desk, held out the invitation ticket, then leaned in slightly and said confidently, "She's not going anymore. I'll take her place." I was speechless. Everyone around was surprised, but no one understood what had just happened. The ticket was originally mine, but somehow she snatched it away, acting as if it was completely justified. The manager just glanced and nodded, and right before everyone's eyes, my sister proudly stepped onto that magnificent yacht. I stood there, left behind, my hands clenched so tightly they trembled. I heard the roar of the massive engine, saw the waves hitting the hull, and watched her figure slowly fade away. In that moment, my heart ached not only because I lost a once-in-a-lifetime chance, but also because I realized a harsh truth. My sister was willing to sacrifice our bond just to chase fame and money. They say the deepest betrayal doesn't come from enemies, but from those we once loved. I never fully understood that until this very moment. Standing alone at the dock, I tried to calm myself down. Childhood memories rushed back. The two of us used to sit together under the porch of our wooden house in Texas, eating Mom's pies and dreaming of traveling the world together someday. Back then, we had nothing but faith in each other. Yet now, that dream of travel is only enjoyed by one of us, while the other is left behind. The question kept ringing in my head. Why? Why did she do it? Was it for the huge amount of money promised from that trip? Was it the dazzling lights that made her forget about family? Or simply because she never saw me as her equal? In that moment, I felt anger, pain, and emptiness all at once. I wondered if this was just the beginning of a bigger family breakdown. But I didn't know this was only the first step in a chain of unexpected events. Because that lavish trip on the $400 million yacht didn't bring my sister the happiness she thought it would. It became the start of haunting days where money couldn't buy love, and where fate began to spin cruel twists. And then, the day she returned, not with glory, but with bad news that shocked the entire family, was when the real story truly began. My name is Emily. People often say I'm the kind of girl who earns trust the moment they meet me. I'm not someone who stands out in a crowd, nor am I the type of woman who likes to show off. My life is simple and calm, finding joy in the little things. I enjoy reading books on late afternoons, baking cookies by hand every weekend, and tending to the rose garden with my mom out front. I grew up in a small Texas town where life revolved around family dinners, Sunday morning church services, and walks through the wide-open fields. There, my sister and I were like two inseparable pieces of a puzzle. Our childhood was full of memories, from playing by the little river to summer nights lying on the roof, stargazing and whispering our dreams for the future. Back then, my sister and I had nothing but the belief that we would always be there for each other. She promised that no matter where life took us, no matter how much changed, we would remain sisters and face every challenge together. I believed her, and maybe that's why the wound in my heart later became so hard to heal. We were different even as kids. I always chose simplicity. I was happy cooking in the small kitchen with my mom and listening to my dad's stories after a day on the farm. I didn't care about expensive things or fancy compliments. My sister was different. She always wanted more, dreaming of leaving our small town for glamorous places where lights glittered and music played all night long. At first, that difference was just a personality trait. But as we grew up, the gap between us became clearer. I remember the first time she got a designer dress. Her eyes lit up, and in that moment I realized she had found a world I didn't belong to. I didn't blame her, because everyone has the right to chase their own dreams. But slowly, family dinners grew quieter without her. Instead of sitting around the table with Mom, Dad, and me, she was often missing, busy attending some party. Those late-night chats we used to have disappeared too. Instead, there were rushed phone calls, promises to come back that rarely came true. I started feeling the bond between my sister and me beginning to crack. I tried to hold on, tried to remind her of the old days, of the promise to always be together. But it seemed like the lure of money and glamour was stronger than any reminder. My parents noticed that too. They loved her, proud to see her enter those fancy circles, but at the same time, they were sad to see the family no longer whole like before. I still remember once my mom sighed and told me that money can buy many things, but it can never replace family love. At that time, I just stayed silent. I believed that no matter how far apart we were, in the end, she would remember family and come back. I wanted to believe that because I couldn't accept that one day, the sister who was once closest to me could turn her back just for fame. But that day at the Miami dock proved my faith was more fragile than I thought. Watching her take the ticket that belonged to me and board a $400 million yacht, I realized the distance between us had become a deep chasm that was hard to fill. Still, deep down, I couldn't fully hate her. Behind the hurt, there was still a sweet part of our childhood memories, the days we held hands running across the endless Texas fields. I know it's those memories that kept me holding on, not letting go completely, even though my heart was bleeding. My story isn't just about betrayal, but also about a sisterly love that was once beautiful and slowly cracked by different desires in life. And that very contrast led us to a turning point where love and greed could no longer coexist. In our American family, the two most important occasions of the year are always Thanksgiving and Christmas. They're not just holidays, but the only times of the year when the whole family can truly sit together, share a meal, recall old memories, and build new ones together. Thanksgiving in Texas usually starts early in the morning, when my dad goes out to the yard to prepare the turkey, while my mom is busy in the kitchen with pumpkin pie and mashed potatoes. I've always been the one helping Mom, from setting the dinner table to preparing the flowers for the living room. That was the time I felt the most peaceful, because everything revolved around warmth and family love. Back then, my older sister was there too. When we were little, she used to run around the table with me, excited to hold hands with the whole family and pray before dinner. But as we grew up, she showed up less and less. Every year it was the same. She'd say she was busy, sometimes attending an event, sometimes on a business trip far away. The traditional dinner with golden roasted turkey and cranberry sauce slowly lost her laughter. Christmas was the same. In our small town, the Christmas spirit filled every corner, from houses decked with twinkling lights to the big tree in the town square. I always felt it was a special time for the family to come closer. We'd usually decorate the Christmas tree in the living room together, hanging every ornament, every red ribbon, and placing little wrapped gifts beneath the tree. On Christmas night, the whole family would sit around the fireplace, Dad telling stories, Mom singing carols, and I'd just listen with simple happiness. But gradually, her absence made the atmosphere feel empty. The The year she decided to spend Christmas in New York with wealthy friends instead of coming home, I sat alone staring at the empty chair by the fireplace. The chair that used to be hers was now just empty space. When everyone at home sang Silent Night, I suddenly felt a pang in my heart because the song wasn't whole anymore. I can't fully blame her because I understand that in America, especially for young people with big dreams, the pull of city lights, money, and fame is hard to resist. But that difference also made me realize that the value of family and tradition is irreplaceable. Every time I attend church services on Sunday mornings, I feel the distance between my sister and me more clearly. I choose to stay in the small town, holding on to simple things, while she chooses to go further, seeking a world where name and status come first. In that American cultural picture, the contrast between us is clear. On one side, there's tradition, family, and simplicity. On the other, money, glamour, and the desire for recognition. This contrast not only strained our sisterly bond, but also reflected the changes many American families face in modern life. I still remember my father saying that Thanksgiving or Christmas isn't just about food or gifts, but about sitting together, looking into each other's eyes, and knowing that no matter how much the world outside changes, in this home we still belong to each other. That's what made me realize I wanted to hold on to that tradition because it's the root of true happiness. And it was through this growing contrast that I began to see something clearly. Maybe what my sister was searching for in that glamorous world could never fill the emptiness that only family love can. But sadly, she only realized that when it was too late. The news hit me like a sudden blow. The owner of that luxurious yacht, who was a business partner of one of my father's close friends, had sent an invitation to our family. At first, the ticket was meant for me as a reward for my hard work and loyalty to the local job. It wasn't just a trip. It was a chance to step into a bigger world, meet successful people, and learn from them. But before I could get ready, my sister stepped in. Somehow, she convinced the yacht owner that she was the better fit. Maybe she used her charm in conversation. Maybe she painted herself as someone indispensable at fancy parties. And just like that, in a brief phone call, the fate of the trip changed. I wasn't going. She took my place. The day she stepped onto the yacht, I saw the look in her eyes full of triumph. She was no longer the sister who sat beside me during church prayers. She was someone else, proud and ambitious. I heard she wore lavish dresses, raised champagne glasses on the deck, laughing with powerful and wealthy people. The photos she posted on social media had the whole town talking. In the photo, she sits under the sunlight by the sea, holding a glass of wine, smiling brightly as if she's got the whole world in her hands. The compliments only made her feel more confident. But as I read each line, I just felt a huge emptiness inside. At home, my parents looked at those pictures with sad eyes. Dad was silent, just sighing, while Mom tried to smile, but I knew she was hurting. We sat around the Sunday dinner table, her chair empty. Mom put an extra plate of food out of habit, then pushed it aside when the meal ended. Meanwhile, on the yacht, she wasn't just enjoying herself. She was bragging about how she had surpassed the family, that she didn't need anyone, and could step into the elite world on her own. A friend once heard her say that in that small town, the family only knew how to live a makeshift life, never truly understanding what real success was. Hearing those words broke my heart. I was never jealous of her. I just wanted her to be happy, and above all, I wanted to keep our sisterly bond. But hearing those words felt like being torn apart. The sister I once loved was now not just distant, but looked down on us. Rumors spread fast, and the neighbors started talking. Some said she had changed her life, that she was lucky to step into that glamorous world. But others sighed, saying she had sacrificed too much, even losing her own family. That night, I sat on the porch, looking at the starry Texas sky. I remembered the days when we dreamed of going far away, promising to always be there for each other. But now, that dream was left only to me, while she had turned it into a weapon to prove she was better than me, better than all of us. The pain inside me wasn't just because I was robbed of that chance, but because I realized she had completely changed. Money and fame had turned her into a different person, a stranger to the sweet childhood memories I once cherished. I don't know if back then I was angrier at her or felt more sorry for her. Angry because of the betrayal, but feeling sorry because I saw my sister was going too far, chasing after vain things that ultimately only left loneliness behind. And I never expected that trip would become the start of a tragic chain, where the seemingly dazzling shine quickly faded, revealing deep cracks in my sister's soul. After the day my sister stepped onto that luxurious yacht, there was an emptiness inside me that nothing could fill. I sat looking back at the photos she posted on social media, her radiant smile under the sunlight by the sea, and the wine glasses in her hands made me feel like I had disappeared from her world. The feeling of being abandoned, pushed aside, slowly turned into a deep pain I didn't know how to explain to anyone. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there listening to the wind blowing through the window, dogs barking from a distant neighbor's house, feeling like the whole world had turned its back on me. Since we were kids, I always believed that my sister and I could be different, choose different paths, but we would never hurt each other. Yet just because of one trip, just because of the glitter of money, she broke me down. Mom was the first to notice the change in me. She sat down beside me, held my hand, her eyes blurred in the soft yellow light. She said that no matter how my sister changed, I was still the pride of the family. I nodded, but inside, the hurt didn't easily fade away. I didn't just lose a trip. I lost the belief that in this family, blood ties were unbreakable. Dad was different. He rarely spoke, but I saw the heaviness in his eyes. Evenings he would sit alone on the porch, lighting a cigarette, quietly staring out at the distant fields. I knew he was hurting too, but his way was silence, keeping the pain inside. Gradually, the silence turned into conflict. Dinners no longer had laughter. Instead, there were increasingly tense arguments. When my mom mentioned my sister, she always tried to justify her. She said my sister was just testing life, that maybe she wanted to prove herself, and that one day she would come back. She didn't want to believe that the daughter she gave birth to could truly look down on the family. But my dad didn't think that way. He believed she had gone too far, that greed and pride made her forget her roots. He said, money can change people, but if it overshadows family love, the price to pay is huge. He didn't believe she would come back like my mom hoped. One evening, after new photos of her on a yacht appeared everywhere, my dad couldn't hold back. He slammed his hand on the table, his voice shaking with anger. That girl has forgotten all about us. My mom started crying. She replied, choking up, "You don't understand. She's just lost right now. One day she'll realize family is the only place she can come back to." I sat between them, not knowing what to say. Every word they said felt like a knife cutting into my heart. I wanted to protect my mom, to ease her pain, but I couldn't deny that my dad was right. She had changed so much, so unfamiliar from the sister who once held my hand running through the Texas fields. From that day on, the atmosphere at home grew heavier. Family dinners were just the clinking of spoons against bowls, without lively conversations. Dad was often silent, while Mom tried to stay cheerful, but her eyes were always red. I was caught in the middle, angry, sad, and afraid my family could fall apart at any moment. Once, Mom sat next to me in my room, hugged me tight, and said, "Don't be mad at your sister anymore. No matter what, she's still family. Sisters can argue, but in the end, love is what holds us together." I stayed silent. I wanted to believe Mom, but the image of my proud sister boarding that yacht haunted me. I had never felt such a distance between us. Dad told me to be strong. He said that in life, even family can disappoint you. What matters is learning to stand firm, not letting yourself break just because of betrayal. He said I shouldn't put all my trust in anyone, because when trust breaks, the pain multiplies. Those words made me feel pulled in two directions. Mom wanted me to forgive. Dad wanted me to learn to let go. As for me, I just felt lost inside. I didn't know which path to choose. I didn't want to lose my sister, but I also didn't know how to heal things when everything had gone too far. The days passed slowly, carrying a weight I couldn't shake off. I noticed my parents talking less and less to each other. They no longer tended the garden together like before. Mom stayed in the kitchen, Dad was out on the porch. They seemed to be living in their own worlds, just because they couldn't agree on how to see their eldest daughter. I realized the conflict was no longer just between my sister and me, but had spread through the whole family. And the scariest part was, I didn't know what to do to stop it. Yet, I had no idea this was just the beginning. The family conflicts were only small cracks. An unexpected event was about to explode everything, turning my family into a battlefield where love and greed clash fiercely. On a $400 million yacht, my sister seemed to be living the dream she once longed for. Night-long parties, glamorous dresses, wealthy friends all around. She raised her champagne glass, smiling brightly at the camera, then posted it on social media as proof of her remarkable success. But amid that spotlight, something unexpected happened. At a dinner party, with music playing loudly, she suddenly felt her body trembling. Her skin went pale, her hands lost control, and sweat poured down like rain. She tried to hide it with a forced smile, but a few people nearby noticed. A doctor who happened to be on the yacht was called over. After a quick check, he looked at her seriously and advised her to immediately return to shore for a full medical examination. The bad news didn't take long to come. After a series of tests, the results showed she had a serious illness that could change her entire life. An illness that couldn't be easily cured with money or a few expensive pills. It takes patience, sacrifice, and most importantly, a shoulder to lean on. But when she needed them the most, those who once surrounded her slowly disappeared. At first, they sent their wishes, a few bouquets, and a couple of polite calls. Then, when they realized her illness might be long-lasting, they withdrew. No one invited her to parties anymore. The compliments on social media faded away, replaced by silence. She tried to keep up appearances, still posting smiling photos, but her eyes no longer had their sparkle. Behind those glamorous pictures were long, lonely nights when she faced her illness with no one by her side. The money was still there, more than she ever dreamed of. But sitting alone in her luxurious apartment, surrounded by cold walls, she realized a hard truth. Money can't bring back the friends who left. Money can't replace the family hugs she once took for granted. Back home, news of her illness reached us too. My mother cried uncontrollably when she heard. She hurriedly packed her bags, wanting to come to her right away. My father was silent, but I knew a storm was raging inside him. He didn't say a word, just sat for a long time on the old wooden chair, staring off as if searching for answers to everything. As for me, when I heard the news, my heart was in turmoil. I used to be angry with her, felt betrayed, and thought I'd never forgive her. But when I learned she was fighting illness, that anger slowly turned into something else. It was sorrow, a mix of pity and heartbreak. I remembered what my mother said. One day, she would realize that family is the only place to come back to. Maybe that day has come, but under the harshest circumstances. In the following months, her image on social media completely changed. No more photos of yachts or parties. Instead, there were short, vague posts about exhaustion, treatments, and feeling lost. People still liked the posts, left a few encouraging comments, but that attention was as fragile as a bubble, lasting only a few hours before fading away. She began to feel lonely to the point of suffocation. Calls from friends grew fewer and fewer, then stopped altogether. On those nights lying alone, she probably thought of me, of our parents, of the little house in Texas, where laughter and the smell of baked goods always filled the kitchen. But across that distance, I still hadn't decided what to do. Part of me was still hurting from what she had done. But another part, undeniably, still hoped she would come back. After all, she was still my sister. The conflict inside me grew, like a smoldering fire that wouldn't go out. And I knew sooner or later We'd have to face each other not on a luxury yacht this time, but in the house where family ties would decide everything. The day she returned, the little house in Texas was filled with an unusual silence. I saw her standing at the door thinner, with dark circles under her eyes, hair no longer shiny like before. The woman who once shone at parties now looked tired and trembling. She carried a small suitcase, not a fancy clothes bag, but one full of hospital papers and medicine. My mom was the first to run over. She hugged her tightly, tears streaming down her daughter's shoulders. Mom cried, as if she had finally found her long-lost daughter. My dad stood behind, face tight, lips pressed hard together. He didn't say a word, just looked at her with heavy eyes. I stood silently in the living room. In that moment, my heart was a mess. Part of me wanted to run and hug her, to forget everything, but another part held me back, reminding me of the deep wound she had caused. I remembered the day she stepped onto the yacht under the glittering lights, leaving me behind at the dock. That image still felt like a knife cutting into my heart. That dinner was one of the heaviest meals I had ever experienced. Mom sat next to my sister, feeding her bite by bite, her voice gentle as if trying to make up for the years my sister was away from home. My sister lowered her head, eating slowly, occasionally glancing at me, as if hoping for a sign of forgiveness. But I couldn't find the words to speak. Finally, my father spoke up. He asked my sister directly, his voice hoarse. "Do you still remember who this family is? Or is this just a place you come back to when there's no one else left by your side?" That question fell heavy, and the whole table went silent. My sister gripped her chopsticks tightly, tears running down her thin face. She spoke with a choked voice, admitting she was wrong, that she had been blinded chasing money and luxury, forgetting family love. She begged for a chance to make things right. My mom quickly spoke up. She took my father's hand, pleading with him to give my sister a chance. She said that illness had awakened my sister, that now was the time the family needed to be together the most. But my father wasn't easily convinced. He had witnessed my sister's changes, endured the disdain, and now he wasn't sure if he could believe she was truly sorry. I sat there quietly, my heart pulled in two directions. I recalled all the childhood memories, the days we sat together singing Christmas carols at night, running under the Texas sun. I wanted to believe family love could heal. But then, the image of my sister glowing on a yacht, looking down on everything family-related, came back like a harsh reminder. In the days that followed, family tensions escalated. Mom spent more and more time with my sister, caring for every meal, every pill. She believed that with enough love, my sister would truly change. But Dad kept his distance. He didn't talk to her much, just occasionally watching from afar, his eyes full of conflict. He was angry, hurt, and unsure where to place his trust. As for me, I was caught in an emotional whirlpool I couldn't escape. During the day, seeing my sister so weak, I felt pity. At night, when I'm alone facing my memories, I feel angry, feeling the wound in my heart still fresh. I wonder if I have enough courage to forgive. One evening, when it was just the two of us sisters in the living room, she hesitated and came closer to me. She said she missed me, missed the old days when we were together. She said that during those months on the yacht, surrounded by wealthy friends, she had never felt as happy as on those evenings sitting on the porch with me. She said that this illness made her realize it was all too late. I looked at her for a long time, without answering. Tears fell from my eyes, but I wasn't sure if they were tears of forgiveness or of pain that couldn't be erased. My family began to split into two halves. One half was Mom and my sister, who believed that family love could overcome everything. The other half was Dad and me, holding on to anger and doubt deep inside. That struggle turned our little home into a place full of more conflict than ever before. With each passing day, the tension grew thicker. Mom cried more, Dad grew quieter, and I lived caught between reason and heart. I knew I had to choose, but I wasn't strong enough to decide yet. And then, I began to understand that this story wasn't just about a sister chasing money and then returning sick. It was about a family, a blood bond, testing the limits of forgiveness. It was about me, the one betrayed, but also the only one who could offer a chance to heal. That's when I realized the real conflict wasn't whether she came back or not, but whether I could open my heart to forgive. And that decision would change everything. I used to think my greatest pain was watching her snatch the yacht ticket and leave me behind at the dock. But fate seemed to mock me, because what I knew until then was only the tip of the iceberg. The real secret was revealed on a night that seemed so peaceful. That night, while I was rearranging Dad's bookshelf, I suddenly found an old file. Among them were documents related to the house, the land, and an inheritance our parents left to my sister and me. I never really cared much about the numbers because, to me, the true value of family isn't about material wealth. But as I flipped through each page, one detail made my heart stop. My sister's name appeared on those papers, along with her signature confirming it. Not just her signature, but clear signs that she secretly transferred part of the property that belonged to both of us into her own name. Tears welled up not over money, but because I felt betrayed once again, deeper and more painfully this time. It turned out that her taking away my chance to go on the yacht was only the beginning. Behind her bright smile, behind her promises, was a scheme I never expected. I brought this up with my dad. He was silent for a long time before finally speaking. His voice was hoarse, full of bitterness. Dad had known all along but didn't want to say anything because he feared the family breaking apart. He hoped it would change, that someday she would make it right. But maybe he was wrong. I was speechless. In that moment, I felt like my whole world was collapsing. I looked at my dad, at the deep wrinkles on his face, and realized he had been silently bearing this pain for a long time. I felt sorry for him again, but at the same time, my anger surged uncontrollably. That night, I confronted my sister. I grabbed the file and slammed it on the table, my voice trembling with rage. "Why did you do this? Why did you not only take away my chance, but also my family's inheritance? Do you even still consider me your sister?" She was stunned, eyes wide, lips trembling. Moments later, tears fell from her eyes. She admitted she had signed the papers and said she thought she needed more to enter that luxurious world. She said she never thought I'd find out, and she believed that once she succeeded brilliantly, she would make it up to me later. Those words stabbed straight into my heart like a knife. I choked up. Make it up? Does she think family bonds can be compensated with money? She took everything away, not just the property, but my trust, the trust that even our parents placed in her. My mom heard the argument and rushed in. She grabbed my hand, begging me to stay calm. She also hugged my sister, sobbing uncontrollably. But Mom's tears couldn't erase the truth that she had betrayed us many times. My dad came in, his face darkening. This time, he didn't stay silent. He said there was nothing left to justify, that forgiveness couldn't come easily. He looked at her with heavy eyes. "You've hurt this family too many times. Greed has blinded you. I don't know if I can trust you anymore." The atmosphere in the small house felt like it was about to explode. Mom was crying, Dad was angry, I was slumped over the table, and my sister sat there, holding her face in despair. In that moment, I felt like our family was on the edge of a cliff. One more gust of wind and it would all collapse. I didn't know whether to be angry, to cry, or to forgive. All I felt was my heart being torn apart. Part of me wanted to run away, to disappear, so I wouldn't have to witness this anymore. But another part still held me back because, no matter what, she is still family. That night, I lay in bed, unable to sleep. I remembered our childhood days sitting under the moonlight, sharing our dreams for the future. I recalled the promise that no matter what happened, we would always be sisters. And now, I wonder when those promises disappeared. The crisis inside me reached its peak. I felt like I had no support left. I love her, but I also hate her. I want to forgive, but I can't erase the wounds. I'm caught in an internal battle I never thought I'd face. That climax made me realize a bitter truth. Sometimes people lose everything, not because of enemies outside, but because of betrayal from those they love most. And that pain is the hardest to heal in life. That night, the whole family sat in the living room. No one spoke to each other. The dim yellow light fell on our tired faces. On the table still lay the inheritance documents I had discovered. They sat there like undeniable proof, like an open wound in all of us. I looked at my sister. She kept her head down, her trembling hands resting on her knees. In that moment, all the pain and anger I had bottled up exploded. I couldn't stay silent any longer. You took everything. Not just the chance to go on the yacht, not just our parents' pride, but also the inheritance that should have been ours together. Do you even still see me as your sister? Or have I long been just a shadow you step over? She lifted her head, her eyes red, but instead of answering directly, she started to cry. Her voice was shaky. You don't understand. Since we were kids, you were always loved by our parents, seen as their pride for being obedient and well-behaved. But what about me? I was always compared, always seen as the one who played too much and was irresponsible. I was tired of living in your shadow. I was stunned. I never expected she'd carry those feelings inside. I let out a bitter laugh. Is that what you think? You think I'm luckier than you? I just lived simply, holding on to what our family valued. I never looked down on you, never wanted you to lose out. All I needed was sisterly love, but you turned it into a cruel competition. My father spoke up, his voice heavy. Both of you, stop it. Enough. But neither my sister nor I could stop. The pain was too great, the wounds too deep, making us say things we couldn't hold back. She looked at me, her voice choked but filled with bitterness. You were always seen as the good child. But I had to prove myself with money and status. I didn't want to lose to you. I didn't want to spend my whole life as a forgotten name in this small town. I felt tears welling up in my eyes. I shouted, So, you betrayed the family? So, you took everything away? You didn't just hurt me, you broke Mom and Dad's hearts too. Did you ever think about them? The room fell into a suffocating silence. Mom burst into tears, running over to hug both of us, but she couldn't hold back her tears or bitter words. Dad was silent, his hands clenched tightly into fists. He looked at his two daughters as if his heart was breaking. Then, in the middle of that confrontation, you suddenly let go and slumped into the chair. Your whole body was trembling, sobs choking the quiet room. You spoke through your sobs. I don't have much time left. The doctors already said it. This disease will take everything, even my life. That confession made the room freeze. I sat silently, eyes wide open, while Mom screamed in despair, clutching you like she was afraid you'd disappear right then and there. Dad stood still, his face aged by decades in that moment. You kept talking, your voice weak. I was wrong, blinded by greed and jealousy. I thought money and fame would make me happy. But now, facing this illness, I realize it was all just an illusion. The only thing I want now is family and you. No matter how much you hate me, I hope one day you'll forgive me. I sat there, feeling like 100 knives were piercing my heart. The anger was still there, but mixed with an unbearable sorrow. I looked at you, your thin shoulders and tangled hair, and realized the woman before me was no longer the proud figure from the yacht years ago. She was just a weak, desperate person trying to hold on to family in her final days. Dad sighed, his voice heavy. You've made so many mistakes, but you're still my daughter. I don't know if I can fully forgive you, but I don't want to see you go alone. Mom sobbed loudly, tears pouring down like rain. My child, I have never stopped loving you. No matter how lost you are, I'm still here. I bit my lip until it bled. I couldn't say the words, I forgive you, yet, but deep down, I felt the wall of anger slowly cracking. I sensed a truth I probably already knew. Family ties, even when betrayed, are hard to break. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake hearing Mom's cries from the next room, Dad's heavy footsteps on the porch, and my sister's dry cough from the old room. The whole house was filled with those sounds, like a sad symphony of fate. Tonight's confrontation had exposed everything: greed, jealousy, betrayal. But it also revealed the truth that my sister was losing precious days. Time was running out, and the choice was in my hands. Would I hold on to my grudge, or find a way to forgive before it's too late? In the days after the tearful confrontation, our house remained heavy with tension. Though Dad had softened, Mom still cared for my sister's meals and medicine while I wrestled with myself. In my heart, anger and sympathy intertwined. I still couldn't say, "I forgive you," but I no longer had the strength to keep holding a grudge. Then, one morning, while cleaning my sister's room and organizing her medicine, I accidentally found an envelope hidden under the desk drawer. On the outside was my name, written in my sister's familiar handwriting. I opened it, my heart racing, and the words inside left me speechless. In the letter, she wrote that she had done many wrong things, letting greed and jealousy destroy our blood bond. She apologized to me, to Mom and Dad, and for everything she had caused. She confessed that her illness was draining her strength, and she knew she didn't have much time left. So, she decided to do one last thing to make amends and leave something meaningful for the family. The next pages contained a notarized copy of her will. It clearly states, "All the money and assets you have, including the $400 million from contracts and investments after the cruise trip, will be transferred to the family. A portion is set aside for our parents to enjoy their old age. A portion is for me and especially for my children later, so they can have a full future." I trembled, tears streaming down the paper. Everything I ever thought about her, about selfishness and greed, suddenly flipped upside down. It turns out, amid all the mistakes, she was still thinking of us. It turns out, she chose to leave not empty-handed, but to leave behind everything she had sacrificed her life for. I took the letter down to the living room. My parents read it, and both burst into tears. My father, the toughest man I know, showed tears for the first time. He choked out, "Maybe this is how she wanted to say sorry." She knew she didn't have much time left, so she used the last thing she had to make amends. My mother clutched the letter tightly, tears soaking the page. She whispered that she never stopped believing her daughter would come back, and now that faith was proven true, though in the most heartbreaking way. I went into her room. She lay on the bed, breathing weakly, tired eyes still watching me as I held the letter. I couldn't hold back, sat down beside her, took her hand. For the first time in years, I no longer saw pride or distance. I just saw a sister trying to hold on to the little time she had left to do the right thing. I cried, hugging her. My voice trembled. "I've read it, all of it." "Why didn't you say this sooner?" She gave a weak smile. "I didn't want to say it until I was sure. I was afraid people would think it was just a way to buy affection. But now, I want you to know, I'm sincere. Everything I left behind, I just hope the family will be peaceful, and you will have a bright future." Those words tore down the last wall left in my heart. I no longer had the strength to hold on to anger. All I felt was love for a sister who had lost her way for too long, and only when death was near did she realize the true value of family. In the days that followed, I spent more time with my sister. I told her stories from our childhood, about the times we laughed uncontrollably on the rooftop while counting stars, about the days we ran through the windy fields. She listened attentively, her eyes sparkling. Sometimes she would laugh, but that smile quickly faded into persistent coughing. Our family, after so many years of brokenness, began to find its way back together. Dad spoke less, but whenever he entered her room, he would sit beside her for a long time, silent, just holding his daughter's hand. Mom still cried, but those were tears mixed with sadness and relief, as if she had finally found some peace. My sister was wrong, but she bravely made things right, in the only way she could. And for me, that was enough to open my heart. The day she signed the final will, I sat by her side. Her hand trembled, each word written with effort, but her eyes were determined. When she finished, she looked up at me with the gentle smile I hadn't seen in a long time. Now she could rest easy. Everything she had would belong to me and the family. She had nothing left to regret. I hugged her, crying like I never had before. In that moment, I understood that family bonds, even when broken, can be healed with love and sacrifice. The price she paid was too high, but at least she chose to leave in peace. Her last days passed in a silence so suffocating. The small room where she lay became the center of the family, yet also the place everyone avoided when it came to facing the truth that time was running out. Every morning, Mom would bring in a bowl of hot porridge. Dad would sit silently beside her for hours, and I often read Bible passages to her that we once read together at church. Still, her health grew weaker every day. The coughing fits grew intense, her breath came in broken gasps, and her thin hands grew cold in mine. I tried to hold on to hope, but deep down, I knew the day of parting was near. One autumn afternoon, weak sunlight filtered through the window, and she called me to her bedside. Her voice was hoarse, but her eyes shone unusually bright. "Emily, I know I'm about to leave. I'm not afraid anymore because I know I finally did the right thing. But I want to leave you something more important than money." She handed me a small envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter, many pages long. In it, she wrote that although her life was full of mistakes, her love for the family never faded. She admitted it was too late to fix everything, but hoped these words would help us understand she truly regretted and loved us until her last moment. I read the letter through choked sobs. She wrote to me, to Mom and Dad, and even to my future children. She urged us to live simply and not be controlled by greed. She wrote that money can build houses, buy cars, and throw lavish parties, but it can never buy peace of mind or family love. A few days later, just as dawn broke, she passed away. My mother broke down crying at her bedside. My father squeezed her hand one last time, and I knelt beside them, feeling empty inside. In that moment, I realized that no matter how much pain she caused, this loss made me feel like I lost a part of myself. Her funeral was simple but full of tears. No fancy lights, no wealthy friends, just family and a few close neighbors. In a small cemetery in a Texas town, with a gentle autumn breeze, I stood before her gravestone, holding her final letter. Tears fell, but inside me was a strange sense of peace. My parents, though grieving, seemed relieved. Dad said he never thought he would forgive, but that letter made him realize his daughter was truly sorry. Mom cried, but there was a relieved smile behind her tears. She whispered that her daughter had finally come back not in body, but through the love in every word left behind. I returned to my sister's old room, still filled with the scent of medicine and the dried flowers Mom had arranged. I sat on the bed and opened the letter to read it again. Each sentence felt like a sharp blade, yet also like a gentle hand touching my heart. I felt both pain and a sense of relief. I understood that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, but accepting so you can move forward. In the months that followed, I began fulfilling her wishes. I used the money she left behind not to chase luxury, but to care for our parents and set up a small fund to help struggling children in town. I wanted that money once spent chasing false happiness to now become a true source of love. Some nights, I'd sit on the porch, look up at the stars, and think of her. I imagined she was still sitting beside me like before, telling me about faraway dreams. And I smiled through my tears because I knew she left me with a big lesson. Money can be lost, fame can fade, but family bonds, even when broken, can be healed with love and forgiveness. Her death left a huge void, but it also taught me something important. I learned to forgive, to cherish family, and to live with a more open heart. I'm no longer the fragile girl left behind at the harbor all those years ago. I've become someone who can stand up, accept pain, and find the light. Deep down, I believe that somewhere she's smiling, watching me and our family keep moving forward. Not with lavish wealth, but with true love, the only thing left after all the loss. After her funeral, our house was still filled with sadness, but it was no longer the heavy sadness of anger and blame. It was the sadness of loss and longing, accompanied by a new sense of peace. It seems we all understood that she left with regret and love, and the last thing she gave was a chance for the family to start healing. My father changed a lot. He was no longer silent like before, nor as strict as in the early days when she returned. He spent more time with my mother, helping her take care of the backyard garden, full of the roses she used to love. Sometimes he would tell me stories about his youth, about the times he made mistakes too, to remind me that everyone gets lost at some point, but what matters is knowing how to turn back. My mother seemed more at ease. She didn't cry as much anymore. Instead, she often opened the drawer to take out her last letter, reading it over and over as if to keep her daughter by her side a little longer. In my mother's eyes, I saw both pain and peace. She said that my sister had found her release, and our job was to live in a way worthy of the love she left behind. As for me, I knew I had to do something bigger with my life. The huge sum of $400 million she left wasn't meant for me to live in luxury, but to turn it into something truly meaningful. I started discussing with my parents about setting up a charity fund for poor children in our town and nearby areas. On the day the fund was established, we named it after her. I wanted every time someone received help, they would remember a woman who made mistakes but chose to leave with love. The money once spent on lavish parties was now turned into meals for children, books for poor students, and scholarships to open paths to the future. I will never forget the first time I handed out gifts to the kids at a village school. They smiled so innocently, their eyes sparkling with gratitude. In that moment, I felt like she was standing nearby, smiling. I knew she would be happy to see that scene. Since that day, our lives slowly gained more meaning. I was no longer haunted by the image of her on the yacht, no longer trapped in old wounds. I chose to remember her through the good she left behind, through her last efforts to make amends. My family became closer than ever before. Our meals were filled with laughter again. Dad and Mom no longer argued about her past. Instead, they often shared childhood memories about her. They told stories about the time she tried cooking and burned the whole pan, or when she and I sneaked out to the fields to watch fireworks on Independence Day. Those memories became the bond that helped us remember her with love, instead of resentment. I realized something profound. Money can bring luxury, open flashy doors, but it's never enough to hold on to true happiness. Happiness comes from love, forgiveness, and what we leave in others' hearts. That's the real legacy. Every time I see the kids helped by the charity fund, I know she didn't leave for nothing. Her death, her final letter, and the money she left became the catalyst that turned pain into love. I also understood that forgiveness is not weakness, but the greatest strength to heal wounds that nothing else can fix. Time passed, and the wounds in my heart slowly healed. I no longer dream of her leaving me at the harbor. Instead, I dream we're running together under the starry Texas sky, like when we were kids. In the dream, she's not an ambitious woman, but the sister who promised to always be by my side. Now, whenever someone asks about this story, I always say the important thing isn't the $400 million, but how it's used. Money can be lost, but if turned into love, it becomes eternal. And I believe, somewhere out there, she's watching and smiling because in the end, she left me and my family not just a material legacy, but a legacy of love, forgiveness, and life lessons more precious than anything else. My sister and I's story is a journey full of tears, loss, but also awakening. From a betrayal that seemed unforgivable, from a chain of wounds stretching over the years, we finally found our way back to family love. But the price was high, for healing only came when death was near. Looking back at everything, I realize an important lesson. Families can fracture because of ambition, break apart because of greed, and be tested by wrong choices. But only forgiveness and love can heal those cracks. If we hold on to resentment, if we let anger control us, in the end, the one who suffers the most is ourselves. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting, nor is it about accepting mistakes as right. Forgiveness is about freeing ourselves, so our hearts are no longer bound by hatred. My sister made a big mistake. She betrayed our trust, betrayed the family. But in her final moments, she chose to do what was right. You used the money that was once a symbol of greed to turn it into love, into a charity fund for poor children, a comfort for our parents, and a foundation for my future and my children's future. That act helped me realize that sometimes people can't turn back time to fix things, but they can still choose to leave with a heart full of regret and love. I'm heartbroken to lose you, but I'm also grateful because I finally learned the value of forgiveness. Without forgiveness, I would be trapped forever in the shadows of the past. Without opening my heart, I'd be locked inside painful memories. Forgiveness helped me stand up, helped my family find laughter again, and gave my life new meaning. And that's the message I want to share with you, those who are listening to this story. Your family may have had conflicts. You may have been hurt by the ones you love most. But remember, no rift is unfixable as long as love remains. Forgiveness isn't just for the one who did wrong. It's for you, so your heart can be free. If you were in my shoes, what would you do? If your own sister betrayed you for $400 million, would you have the courage to forgive? If one day the person who hurt you came back desperate, would you believe that family ties could still be saved? Please share your thoughts. I really want to know what you would choose. Do you believe forgiveness can heal the deepest wounds in a person's heart? Or do you believe some mistakes can never be fixed? My story isn't just about me and my sister. It's a reminder that every family can face tough challenges. But if love remains, we'll find a way back to each other. If trust remains, we'll turn pain into strength. And if we have enough courage to forgive, we'll find peace, even after the greatest losses. Before we finish, I'd like to invite you to share your own story. Have you ever experienced betrayal within your family? Have you ever forgiven someone, even though they deeply hurt you? Please leave a comment, because your story might be a source of strength and comfort for others listening. And if this story touched your heart, please subscribe to the Crying Inside channel. Here, we'll keep bringing you emotional family stories, journeys of love, loss, and meaningful lessons. Every subscription not only helps the channel grow, but also supports us in sharing more heartfelt stories with more people. Remember, money can buy luxury, but only love leaves a true legacy. And sometimes, the most precious thing you can give is forgiveness. That's where today's story comes to an end. Thank you for staying with us from the very beginning to the last moment. This is not just a sad story about loss and betrayal, but a journey of awakening where family ties and forgiveness become the guiding light. We hope that while watching this story, you not only shed tears, but also find something to reflect on for yourself. Maybe in your life, there have been times when your family faced conflicts, and times when you felt hurt by your loved ones. And if so, remember that forgiveness doesn't make us weaker. It frees our hearts and gives family bonds a chance to heal. Once again, thank you sincerely for being with Crying Inside. Every view, every comment, every share motivates us to continue bringing you meaningful and emotional family stories. You're watching Crying Inside. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to catch more heart-touching family stories.